Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is Kelly Walsell, and I am the CEO and owner of Beyond Indigo Pets. Hopefully, you're having a fine day today, and that thank you for making us part of it. My guest speaker today is Deborah Hamilton. She is very knowledgeable about so many things. We were talking about this before the show, Deborah, like exactly what thing are we going to discuss today, right? Do you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, absolutely, Kelly. I'm so glad to be here. This is such a wonderful platform on which to have, really informative discussions. So I'm an attorney who drank the Kool-Aid of mediation. So I was a litigator. I'm no longer a litigator. I help people resolve conflicts over animals. That includes veterinarians and their clients and staff. And I always sit there and say, listen, if I could teach you how to breathe, and get out of your amygdala when somebody is really giving you a hard time and get back into your prefrontal cortex so that you can just recognize that's their issue and not yours and not take it on. So many more conflicts would be ameliorated because you didn't add fuel to the fire. So I think that's what we're talking about today, how to have a conversation without adding fuel.
And that's a really good one because right now, as I've been, my kind of analogy for this time is before COVID and before March 1st, we'd start the day maybe at 0, and then our stress level at the max would be 10, right? But now most of us, our bandwidth is starting at a 5 to 8. So then we don't have very much wiggle room before we hit that 10, right?
Absolutely. And your clients, of course, are also starting at 5 because
Right.
their lives have been turned upside down. And the thought of handing you their animal on the curb and having you take it in and not being with their animal, some people are okay with that, the long-term clients who know you and things like that. But some of the clients, even long-term, just really and have anxiety. And then their animals have anxiety. So the dog that never bit you before now bites you. And so it's like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So what I try to exchange with veterinarians who call my office or with clients who are mad at their veterinarians who call my office is let's stop for a minute and listen to what's being said, because it's not necessarily something that you're going to pound the person about, but rather just listen, because you'll hear the pain in their voice, whether it be listening to your veterinarian or listening to your client or listening to your staff member. So you stop and listen first. And listen for understanding, not listen for, this is what I'm going to tell Kelly because I'm going to respond. Most of us respond defensively. We listen and we go, yeah, Kelly, but I always say, get your butt out of your head instead of your head out of your butt. Oh, sorry, I didn't say that, but really, your butt out of your head, because
Right.
the minute you say but, it totally disenfranchises any nice thing you said before.
Right. And people just go, right? Like, oh, you didn't hear me. You
Yeah.
didn't hear that I'm suffering, that I'm struggling, that this animal, if I'm the pet owner, this may be the only place I receive unconditional love in the world, And so that's what this animal means to me, is that still work of unconditional love, and vice versa for the veterinarian. The veterinarian is probably thinking, you don't know how much I've worked my ass off trying to be here for you and all the hoops and all the struggles,
Right. My staff has to be exposed to COVID as they go out to your car. I have to be worried about them. I have to be worried about possible fomites if you are, on your dog. I have to be worried about all this. And now you're giving me a hard time about, that I'm even open. Well, when I talk to clients, pet owners, I often say to them, so what do you think about the vet being open during this? And they really are respectful and understanding, but they've gotten so far down the pike of, they didn't listen to me. They took my dog. I couldn't ask questions. They didn't answer it. And I said, well, did you take the stop talking and listen as well? Listen to the veterinarian. They're under a lot of stress as well. And then I always say to the clients and the veterinarians, drop the need to be right. Because you absolutely are. And nobody can make you wrong except in your own mind. So your client can be mad and tell you you're terrible, you're this, you're that. Well, that's how they're perceiving it. That doesn't mean you're wrong. It just simply means that they're having a perception breakdown. And if you let them, just evacuate, a lot of veterinarians, when they give these talks, they fire the client or fire the staff member. And I said, the problem with that is you take you with you. And so when you take you with you, you're going to create that same perfect storm in perception and perspective with somebody else. And you're going to go, why do I keep losing clients, or why do I keep losing really great staff? Well, because you didn't take the time to drop the need to be right and listen.
Right. Like, I call it our internal landscape. you always take your internal landscape with you. And I use that term because I'm a gardener more so now than ever before.
Aren't we all?
Right? But the internal landscape, you know, if you don't weed your own garden, if you don't take care of it, you know, I'm a big believer, like attracts like. So whatever you're manifesting within yourself, right? It's a caring call out there to say, come join me. This is who I am and this is what I want. And I so agree with you. You take you with you, and then if nothing changes, nothing changes. That's another.
Yeah, so about 5 years ago, I started a program that's called Weeding the Garden. So you and I are absolutely on the same page, because if you don't go in and say, so why do I always respond to Kelly that way? What is it that triggers me? What is it? Because it's you, you know, and Kelly may be a pain in the Heineken. However, there's something that's triggering, and if you don't address it, and decide to, you know, keep the relationship or whatever, then, you know, you're not going to be able to move forward if you just continue to still do the circle, that, you know, the little rabbit in the circle. So Kelly and I are always going to have this difficulty all the time because of the way I perceive the way she talks to me. And so that's really, and if you don't just take, I love Brene Brown when she says, the story I'm telling myself about what you just said is X. And then Kelly goes, no, I just had a really bad day driving into the office and I spilled coffee on my pants. And when you said that to me, I just needed to unload. And unfortunately, you were there. But you gave her the opportunity to say, listen, sorry.
Right. And, you know, owning it, being transparent about yourself and your own issues and being really honest about it really diffuses a lot of situations, I've noticed. Absolutely. Like, I am so sorry. That was all me. And I may just be perceiving this wrong. Because, you know, I'm also a big component, like you've been saying, is we get to choose our attitude. You may not like the circumstance, but we get to choose how we approach that circumstance, right?
And I always ask myself, I don't know if you do this, Kelly, and I try to have my clients ask themselves, how does this make me feel? And if responding this way doesn't make me feel good, doesn't make my day, and really creates a void in which I'm falling head first, I stop it. I go, you know, I'm not going to let this person do this to me. I'm going to say, you know, this is Kelly's. I'm going to let her own it. And I'm going to appreciate and acknowledge that she's angry or upset or whatever. But I always say the only similarity between appreciate and agree are the letters A-R-E. And if we talk about this, we are going to work it out. But if we just be defensive, get into our amygdala, which is your lizard brain, so you're just lizardly, and not really have the ability to hear. So the last part is letting things roll off your back because you're not adding fuel. You just really need to understand that letting things roll off your back isn't allowing someone to walk all over you, but rather allowing them to own it and then not owning it yourself. If it's their issue, that's fine. I mean, appreciate it, but don't own it.
Don't own it and let them sort it out and then come back and re-engage. And I mean, kind of what you're saying here, it's kind of apropos for the times, because you may have seen this, or, you know, this is maybe your perception of the world. We've really lost the art of conversation.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I remember growing up, because I'm old enough to be able to remember this. And
I think we're about the same. So
we're probably about the same. Yep. And, you know, life hasn't always been easy. And then all of a sudden it was hard. There's been hard patches in life before this time, right? In different situations and circumstances. But I remember being a child and watching my parents, like we do as we do as children, and my parents having very diverse friendships, be it political or religious or whatever some of our common black-white issues are, and having the best of time because they all had the art of conversation down.
Yeah. Right? And the art of conversation actually starts with listening first.
Doesn't it?
I always say to my clients when we get into a mediation, I said, I'm going to flip a coin, and whoever goes first actually is not in as good a position as the person who is listening first. I said, because the listener can then, and I usually coach them on this, focus on where they agree. Because what you usually do when you're listening to Kelly is you're focusing on what you disagree on, and you're going to really pound the daylights out of what you disagree on. So right. I force them to say, make a list of all the things you agree with Kelly, because it's really important. So Kelly's going to give her litany and 10 things you agree with and 2 things you don't. And I go, imagine that. And let's
Yeah,
work on, let's
shift
work
the
on,
lens of perception, you know, like how they're looking out the lens. You chose the attitude of the high
yep.
road and the positive, which is,
You always know that it always gets better what you focus on, right? So if you focus
yeah.
on negativity, as you said, especially in these times, if you focus on the negativity and how much I dislike people who disagree with me and they're so stupid, and that's what you're going to bring to you. That's the energy you're going to bring. And I know some people get, oh God, woo woo energy. But truthfully, in these times, recognizing the energy you're setting out there and that you're bringing back to you is going to save you, because it definitely is a time where you have to choose you and you have to really choose positive.
So an exercise. So I just sit and watch people, right? That's because all of us kind of do that. And I try to be very compassionate and very patient with people. So, but I get bored. So I sit and watch people when I'm looking for places, right? So here's a place that people can practice. And what I've noticed, this kind of stop, you know, roll behavior, stop, drop, and roll, is shopping. So like I was at Costco and, you know, they're trying their best, right? And the lines are long. And so, you know, I just hang out. I don't like being on my phone very much. So I'm not on that. So I'm watching the people, and I'm watching people bring their little cart and themselves in their little landscape gardens forward to the checkout counter. And I watch the crabby people as they're kind of, you can just kind of tell people are crabby, right? Like you can kind of tell. And they're moving forward. And then I watch the checkout person respond to them, right? And so the crabby people, all of a sudden, this checkout person gets really abrupt, really crabby with them. And I watch this whole transaction, okay? And then that person moves on. And then, you know, you watch a happier, more friendly person come up, and then the checkout person totally changes. So I might suggest to people, when you're in environments like that, where you don't know any of these people and you're just chilling out and waiting for your turn, watch how the energy shifts. So if people are like, oh, whatever, energy, just look for it, right? And see how it happens.
If you can do that in the curbside pickups, oh my God, and recognize. So I do that as well. I watch, and I am the epitome of, if I see somebody crabby, I really screw up their day by saying, could you go ahead of me? I just know you're in a big hurry. And I don't do it condescendingly prickish. As I always say, veterinarians who I love, but they can be very condescending. I go, why don't you go ahead of me? I'm in no hurry today. And it sort of takes them off guard, and they're like, and it might shift their energy toward the checkout person, who then might shift their energy toward that crabby person, because the crabby person can't be crabby because I let them go ahead of me. And so it's sort of, I love doing that, because then I feel really good that I made their day. They could not have ever expected that somebody was going to let them go ahead of them online. And oh my God, how has that shifted their energy? And I always say, hopefully they'll pay it forward. That if somebody pisses them off later on today, they'll let it go.
Right. I'm the same way with you. I always try to disrupt those little patterns, right? Because you can make the disruption happen in a way that's not confrontational, and nobody will even know it happened, right?
And that's what I always say to veterinarians and their staff. I said, you know, you really just need to understand that that's theirs, and not to, I mean, you know, and I know there have been clients who come in, and before, while you see their name on the list, you go, oh no, it's Mrs. Smith again, holy Toledo. And I always go into vet practices and go, how do you think you're going to handle Mrs. Smith if that's what you do when you see her name on the list? So you have to really see her name on the list and say, okay, let's see if we can make it different for Mrs. Smith today. And even if she is the crabby pants that she sometimes is, let's just, you know, sort of kill her with kindness, and not, as I said, condescending kindness, but really inquire about her, inquire about how she's doing, how her family's doing, how the dog's doing. This is really difficult times. What can we do to make it easy for you? And maybe Mrs. Krabby Pants Smith will be like, holy Toledo, isn't this different? And so when I see, you know, vet conferences that say, you know, just, you know, tell that crabby pants client to go away, I go, well, that's not going to really help you with the next crabby pants person. So if you can assuage and figure out a way to make crabby pants, I always say, address the issue and then decide whether or not you're going to keep them, but appreciate and acknowledge where they're coming from, because that's going to make the big difference in your practice. And people are going to leave your practice and say, you know, I was not my best self yesterday when I went to see Dr. Balzel, and she just did not rise to the bait that I was throwing at her because I was in such a bad mood. And I have to tell you, she's the best vet in the world.
Right. Kindness passes on with kindness.
Yep, absolutely.
I think it's a great place. Let's leave the show here today with that. This has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much. If anybody wants Deborah's wisdom for themselves in all different forms, we're putting your website up there, Deborah, as you can see.
Yep, it's calm though. So it's Hamilton Love. Oh, there it is. There's the M. Good. Awesome.
So we're there. Please come see her and she'll help you out of some sticky wicket situations.
Absolutely. Whether you're a pet owner, a veterinarian, in a divorce, anything that has to do with an animal, that's what that's all I focus on. So if you're having an issue with an animal, just call me up.
I love it. Well, thank you so much today, Deborah.
Thank you.